Spanish police say they have identified the driver of the van that mowed down crowds walking along Barcelona's main tourist street last Thursday, killing 13 people. They haven't named him, but he's understood to be Yunus Abouyacoub, a 22-year-old born in Morocco. Police say he may have fled the country. A South African court has given permission for an online auction of rhino horns despite a global trade ban. The authorities have tried to stop the three-day auction. There's a great demand for rhino horns in Vietnam and China with their use in traditional medicines. The South African government has confirmed that it granted diplomatic immunity to Zimbabwe's First Lady, Grace Mugabe, enabling her to return home despite being accused of assaulting a model in Johannesburg. Some consumers choose to purchase bottled drinking water, rather than relying on city tap water supplies. Bottled water has typically been extracted from underground sources. If water exists underground, but has no natural exit points, bottling companies may construct a water table well by drilling down to extract water from an unconfined aquifer. This is done when the Earth's natural water level known as a water table is much lower than the Earth's surface. In some cases, as with a valley or gully on a mountain, the level of the water table may be higher than the Earth's surface, and a natural spring can emerge. Bottling companies are permitted to extract this water from a hole drilled into the underground spring, but the composition of the water must be identical to that of the naturally surfacing variety nearby. Doctors know a lot about prescribing medications. Take 2 brisk walks and call me in the morning. But for many patients, a light get-moving plan might be just what the doctor should have ordered. Many of us aren't exactly in peak physical condition. But a large number of people are actually deconditioned. So says the Mayo Clinic's Michael Joyner in an essay in the Journal of Physiology. After surgery, illness, pregnancy or extended inactivity for any reason, people might feel faint or fatigued when they try even mild exercise. These signs, Joyner argues, should be recognized by doctors not as symptoms that should be treated with drugs, but rather as a medical state of deconditioning that might be better helped with a gentle, guided exercise program. Falling down or failing is one of the most agonizing, embarrassing, and scariest human experiences. But it is also one of the most educational, empowering, and essential parts of living a successful and fulfilling life. Did you know that perseverance, grit, is one of the 7 qualities that have been described as the keys to personal success and betterment in society? The other 6 are curiosity, gratitude, optimism, self-control, social intelligence, and zest. Thomas Edison is a model for grit for trying 1,000+ times to invent the light bulb. If you are reading this with the lights on in your room, you know well he succeeded. When asked why he kept going despite his hundreds of failures, he merely stated that what he had been were not failures. They were hundreds of ways not to create a light bulb. After a while Evelyn stopped being angry and instead found ways of adapting her playing to suit her deafness. At the age of 16, she became the first deaf student at the Royal Academy in London. She went on to make lots of CDs and is now famous for being the world's only full-time solo percussionist. Evelyn likes to play unusual instruments and has over 1,000 instruments, some of which she has made herself. She likes to play with musicians from all over the world, and requests composers to create music especially for her. An example of this is a piece, which was composed for her by the jazz composer Django Bates, for which kitchen pots and pans were used as instruments.
Even though concentration is the key to acquiring knowledge, concentration itself is not easy to attain. It is a skill that can be developed only through a lot of patience and practice. He who masters it is real yogi. To control our senses and to gather all our awareness into one focus is by no means an easy task. Life itself is complex and there are invariably several issues vying for our attention, which makes it even more difficult to focus on only one thing. Even if we try to concentrate fully on the work in hand, our subconscious mind is scattered in varied directions and soon drags our conscious mind along, without even our realizing it. It therefore requires a lot of discipline, willpower and self-control to focus or concentrate. Learning what not to say is probably more important than learning what to say. As your career develops, you will realize that the wise speak less. Speak when you have value to add, else refrain. Poorly constructed emails with grammatical errors are acceptable between friends, but they should be seriously avoided while communicating formally with your seniors. Avoid any communication in an emotional state when you might say things you will regret later. One unnecessary word uttered at the wrong time or place can ruin a relationship, career, or even your life. Such is the power of words. If such a thing happens, you should immediately apologize, else it may haunt you for life. Another problem to overcome is speaking too fast. China is stepping up its efforts, so announcing a long-awaited plan to link up its southern Pearl River Delta into a massive hub of technology, research, finance and innovation. The possibilities and challenges of the project are both equally challenging and promising, according to analysts. Some describe the plan as an attempt to create a mega-city to rival Silicon Valley, the U.S. technology powerhouse that is home to companies such as Google, Facebook, and Apple. But while Silicon Valley has a population of 3.1 million, the Greater Bay Area will link up 9 cities together with Hong Kong and Macau with a total population of about 70 million, and the economic heft, state media argues, to drive the Chinese economy, let alone the world. The notion that the media is primarily in place to give us news is not very true. If the truth may be told, the media is there to gather enough audience, package them into a pricey commodity and sell it to the advertisers. The advertisers, on the other hand, are always on the lookout for a target audience to persuade them that this product or service is better than that of the competitor. Advertising does influence people. Most of the advertisements are filled with images that equate emotional well-being with material acquisition and associate independence and leisure with consumption of alcohol. Advertising also makes people lavish their own products rather than real people, thereby destroying human relationships. The violent waves of the sea had exhausted us. We were all tired and hungry, so we went in search of food and water. We were fortunate enough to find fruit trees and a stream of fresh and cool water which gave us strength and energy and relieved us from hunger. It had started getting dark. As we were tired, we went to sleep, but were soon startled by a rustling noise which came from a very long and huge python-like serpent gliding swiftly towards us. We ran to save our lives, but the serpent was quick enough to swallow one of my companions. We kept running till we had covered a good enough distance from the serpent. We felt a bit relieved, but at the same time sad, as we had lost a friend of ours. We took shelter on the top of a tree and thought ourselves to be safe.
The most characteristic feature of spiders is their ability to produce silken threads. Spiders normally have 6 finger-like silk glands, called spinnerets, located beneath their abdomen. To spin a web, the spider squeezes the silk out of its body through 2 small holes. The liquid silk is thicker than water and dries into a fine thread as soon as it comes in contact with air. Spider silk is much stronger than steel and resists breakage because of its elasticity. It can stretch up to 140% of its original length. The diameter of these silken threads is about 10,000 of an inch. Spiders use this silk to make webs to trap their prey. The egg sacs of some spiders are also made of silk, which pre-treats the unborn progeny. The majority of children around the world have at least one sibling. The sibling relationship is likely to last longer than any other relationship in one's lifetime and plays an integral part in the lives of families. Yet, in comparison to the wealth of studies on parent-child relationships, relatively little attention has been devoted to the role of siblings and their impact on one another's development. In recent decades, research has focused on sibling relations in early childhood, and the shift from examining the role of structural variables, e.g., age, birth order, towards more process variables, e.g., understanding of their social worlds, has proved to be a fruitful direction. In high-income countries, most of those killed or injured in road traffic crashes are drivers and passengers of four-wheeled vehicles. In low-income and middle-income countries, however, vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists and motorcyclists and users of public transportation constitute a higher proportion of road users, and consequently make up a larger proportion of those injured or killed on the roads. This report focuses on young road users, defined as those under 25 years of age. The document highlights the main risk factors for road traffic injuries, noting how many of these risks are elevated in youth. A pond's ecosystem consists of abiotic environmental factors and biotic communities of organisms. Abiotic environmental factors of a pond's ecosystem include temperature, flow, and salinity. The percentage of dissolved oxygen levels in a water body determines what kind of organisms will grow there. After all, fish need dissolved oxygen in order to survive. However, anaerobic bacteria will not thrive in an ecosystem pumped with dissolved oxygen. A water body's salinity may also determine the different species present. For instance, marine organisms tolerate salinity, while freshwater organisms will not thrive when exposed to salt. In fact, freshwater ecosystems often have plant species present which will absorb salts that are dangerous for freshwater organisms. No wonder that besides the scriptures, in many cultures, nature is also worshipped. The message that is transmitted is that of maintaining environment and ecological balance. People are taught to live in harmony with nature and recognize that divinity is there everywhere. Nature is a great teacher. A river never stops flowing. If it finds an obstruction in the form of a heavy rock, the river water fights to remove it from its path or finds an alternative path to move ahead. This teaches us not only to be nurturing but also to be progressive in life, keeping the fighting spirit alive. We learn a lot in nature's lap but are unwilling to comprehend it. Rather than being considerate to our surrounding and environment, we are being senselessly insensitive.
Health insecurity is at an all-time high. In a time when thousands of people lose their health insurance every day, when health care is becoming elusive to even well-to-do Americans, and when any person is just one pink slip away from becoming uninsured, it becomes clear that health care for all is not just important to achieve, but imperative. At its root, the lack of healthcare for all in America is fundamentally a moral issue. The United States is the only industrialized nation that does not have some form of universal healthcare, defined as a basic guarantee of healthcare to all of its citizens. Another health-related benefit of gardening is that when people tend to their gardens, they are getting exercise. Even an activity as simple as gardening can contribute towards weight loss. Gardening gets a person outdoors, exposed to natural air, and refocused on a pleasant activity. Gardening also offers nutritional benefits to those who choose to plant a vegetable garden. Creating a vegetable garden is a way of ensuring that there is a continuous supply of fresh vegetables to consume. Vegetable gardeners know exactly where their produce is coming from, and they also know exactly what chemicals were used to grow the produce. It presented evidence that the diversity of life arose by common descent through a branching pattern of evolution. Before developing his theories and writing this book, Darwin spent 5 years on HMS Beagle. The Beagle sailed across the Atlantic Ocean, and then carried out detailed hydrographical surveys around the coast of the southern part of South America, returning via Tahiti and Australia after having circumnavigated the Earth. Darwin spent most of the time on land investigating geology and making natural history collections, while the Beagle surveyed and charted coasts. Puzzled by the geographical distribution of wildlife and fossil, he collected on the voyage. At least 5 people were killed and several others wounded when Sudanese security forces opened fire on demonstrators in Khartoum and elsewhere in the country Saturday. The Sudan Doctors Committee said 4 people died from gunshots and 1 suffocated from tear gas in Khartoum and Omdurman on Saturday. Several other protesters were wounded, including from gunshots. The rallies came 2 days after military coup leader General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan reappointed himself the head of the Sovereign Council, Sudan's interim governing body. Thursday's move angered the pro-democracy alliance and frustrated the United States and other countries that have urged the military to reverse its coup and to restore civilian rule. Chocolate diamonds that are actually brown diamonds are compared to the well-known white diamond, which aren't of much worth. Diamonds are produced in mines. The best-known diamond mines are in Australia, South Africa and Russia. The largest diamond mine was discovered in 1976 in the desert of Australia near a little creek named Lake Argyle. Diamonds are created under very extreme conditions of pressure and high temperature. It is a general misunderstanding that there exist only white colorless diamonds. Actually, diamonds exist in many different colors. Of all the diamond mines in the world, almost 80% of the diamonds produced are brownish in color.
A massive tow truck worked Saturday to remove the remains of a burned-out oil tanker that exploded in a giant fireball overnight near the capital of Sierra Leone. Reuters' David Doyle has more. Deputy Health Minister Amara Jambai said the death toll currently stands at 99, with more than 100 people being treated in hospitals and clinics across the capital, Freetown. In a video from the scene shared online, the head of the National Disaster Management Agency, Brima Bura Sisse, said, "We've got so many casualties, burnt corpses," adding, "It's a terrible, terrible accident." Freetown's mayor said the extent of the damage from Friday's explosion was not yet known, adding that police and her deputy were at the scene to assist disaster management officials.